Good morning, everybody. Thanks for getting up early and making it over here to the show floor. If you're tuning in with us live online, we appreciate you logging in. Welcome to this session, the Fabricators Forum. I'm going to do a brief introduction. I'm Mark Mario with the Natural Stone Institute. I lead our credentialing program called Natural Stone Institute Accreditation, where we third-party verify credentials for companies fabricating and installing natural stone. I also work on our staff as one of the members of our technical team, so for our member companies, they can call in unlimited times and get technical support. I'll help when I can, refer them to reference documents when applicable, or refer them to other friends around the industry if it's information we don't have internally. I also have done a bit in the last 5 years or so with a lot of silica safety awareness and education and training, and then some this past year with some of the COVID resources for our business owners. So if you heard my name, that's what I've been involved in recently. I've got two other of our wonderful members with me today to try and lead the discussion. Buddy, tell us a little bit about yourself.
My name is Buddy Antra. I am a small, mainly single residential fabricator in Bridgeport, Connecticut. I am accredited with the Natural Stone Institute, and just here to share a little experience and probably learn more from you guys.
Karen?
My name is Karen Rowe. I am a fabricator here in the Central Florida area. Been doing this for about 25 years, done everything from big box work, Disney work, commercial size, just down to little vanities. So my range is very wide. And we've done fully automated shops all the way down to manual shops. So I look forward to getting some feedback from you guys today, and hopefully we can all learn from each other. Thanks for coming.
And I forgot to mention, I am also one of our, about half of our staff members came from industry, working in one part of the industry or another, whether that was in quarrying or architectural stone. I myself had a fabrication shop back in the early 2000s, before the slowdown of 2008-9. And then I worked for other fabricators in the Atlanta, North Georgia area, mostly managing larger commercial countertop projects. I know we have members that do high-rise cladding and big commercial stuff like that. But so I come from industry. I've lived what you guys live through on a daily basis. I've been where many of you are, and I'm just thankful that I get to try and share these experiences with you today. This is an open forum, so hopefully you guys came with questions, guys and gals. We want to hear from you. What are the hot topics? What are the pain points you have in your shops? What do you want to hear about, learn about today? So I've got Aaron running around on the floor with the microphone here. If any of you at any time during this conversation have a question for us or for anybody else in the room, that's what it's intended to be, is an open forum. We want to hear and share ideas amongst ourselves. So I just threw some of these up here. These are topics that we hear about as hot button items. If you guys want to raise your hand, anybody want to volunteer? What's your biggest pain point right now? No takers.
How about the one with the most perfect shop? You can start.
Oh, good.
I do have a question.
Great.
Rising costs, I've been hearing a lot about container costs and tripling, quadrupling, even higher than that. How are you mitigating that with the end user right now? Is that being passed on? Are you absorbing it? And what do you think it's going to be in the future?
Excuse me. We all have our different price models. Mine is a simple. I take what I pay out of pocket for the material. I put what my labor is going to be on it, and there's the number. I would tell tell my customer that if they select, say, two different stones, I'll say, look, if your choice A is $5,000 and your choice B is $4,500, the difference is what I'm paying, for material in most cases. There are some materials that the labor is going to be different. It's a little more difficult to work with some of the quartzites than it is with, say, a Carrara or one of the classic granites. But I'm able to just absorb, not really, I don't really absorb it, I just put it out there and that's what it is. It's that simple. I don't do that, the blanket pricing, I don't do the volume to really warrant that. So that really hasn't, affected me that much. I know my labor costs have gone up, and part of that has been to mitigate my workload recently with the residential boom, the recent residential boom. So we put the prices up, maybe somebody, walks away and it's a little bit easier on my guys. They don't like to turn away work, but at the same time, I don't want to be stressed out trying to do 10 jobs when I can only do 8.
I'll jump in here too. I think you're also probably talking about some of the shipping costs. Is that what, yeah. So this is a big subject that seems to be coming up quite often. And I think in this last week, I've gotten at least 2 calls from different distributors of mine that not only quartz products are increasing, but natural stone products are increasing. We've had, truckers on strike in Brazil. We've had other shipping issues and problems with containers on the water. And this is a great subject to bring up. I mean, what a container used to cost, $1,800 to $3,000 to bring into the country, we're hearing of numbers of $10,000 and $20,000 now just to get the container in the country. So it has to somehow be offset into our pricing as fabricators. What I find is the best tool is to have the good relationship with the distributors and your contacts in the industry. So you're ahead of this, you have the information, and then you're able to educate your customers better so I can prepare them in the future. I know of a couple other colleagues of mine that have, maybe they do big box work or they do other work that they have contracted pricing that they have to stick to. Well, now that $4 square foot stone is now $6 a square foot. So they've lost $2 on, on their profit margin. So, those are all things that you need to be able to communicate ahead of time, and staying involved in the industry, communicating with your distributors with really good relationships is really key so that you can keep your customers educated as well.
I'd like to see a show of hands. How many of you import containers directly? Everybody buys slabs and bundles through distributors locally, or anybody importing here? Got at least one, so. Are you experiencing those price increases already? Because we've heard about this from a number of our members, obviously, it's very similar numbers to what Karen shared. And I prepared this slide because some of the solutions I've heard is some of the importers, doesn't matter the country, have already negotiated rates or pre-ordered with containers, and they're doing the same as your clients may do to you, try and hold you to that price, that contract you already have. So they're doing that I think you may have missed the boat to do that pre-ordering now, because the prices are already jumping quite a bit. But there are still suppliers out there that I've talked to that had a few remaining open shipping orders available. So if you do import, you do have a regular supplier you work with, ask about those. It may be a last chance to get those final containers filled and in here at a somewhat reasonable price. But for everyone else, and it's not just stone, it's all materials, doesn't matter. Everything shipping around the world is costing more, and shipping availability, I think the shipping industry is having the same issues with labor force that we see in the stone industry. Is that shortage affecting your project lead times? I put some ideas up here to talk about. Everybody still trying to offer a very, very short turnaround, or is that extended? Have you been able to stretch that out with your clients, communicate to your clients? How are you working with that? Anybody?
My lead times have been mostly affected by the workload. And as I think I can speak for most of us, that we can't just take someone off the street and plug them in and put them in a skilled position. And as much as we'd like to train folks, I don't like to be general, but I think there is not really the willingness out there to, learn something when they can possibly make the same dollar amount at an easier job with some of the younger folks. But I know that's not all true. There's some diamonds in the rough out there if we can find them, and the pun is intended. But the expectation from my customer base, at least, I've been very upfront with them, going from that 10 to 14 days to telling them it's going to be at least 21, if not 28 days. You know, it reminds me of the 90s when we could tell people it was be 6 months before your countertops come, and they'd be like, oh, okay, great, you know. But it's, you know, it's a different world today. We're used to immediate gratification. We're used to getting what we want, when we want it. And, you know, that has been holding true for, you know, for what we do, for, you know, fabricating the countertops. One of my builders, most of my builders would understand, because they have, the other trades are coming in for 2 hours and leaving and coming back 2 days later instead of spending the 2 or 3 days on that job site. And, you know, where I've found that it's been most challenging for me are those larger jobs. You know, I can do the just swap out the kitchens all day long, but those larger new constructions where there's the kitchen, the pantry, the 3 bathrooms, 2 fireplaces, where they need my attention once or twice a week, if I have 3 of those going on once or twice a week, now, you know, now I don't have time for the smaller jobs, which are the ones that keep my lights on for the most part. And, you know, the bigger ones are the big payday later on. So that has been, you know, quite the challenge with the lead times. But that communication, to set that expectation, I've found is like, it works 9 out of 10 times, you know. Most are understanding because they're in the same boat.
I used to always tell my salespeople that if you set that expectation ahead of time, then you're the champion when things go perfectly. So if you're ahead of schedule, then you really look like you're knowing your stuff, right? And you're doing a great job. But if you tell them I'm going to be there in 4 to 5 days, and you're really there in a week or 10 days or, you know, even 2 weeks at this point with some of the things going on, then that's the struggle. 99% of the time, if my salespeople were to set that expectation ahead of time, give the worst case scenario, you're the champion in the end.
I mean, we're all used to, like Buddy said, next day shipping, 2-day shipping. What is it? I can click on and order something to have it before I get back home, and that's the norm we've all been accustomed to, and it's a great service to have. But it's not reality right now, and hopefully you guys are finding out ways to message your clients, message the people you're working with, and set those realistic expectations, like Karen had mentioned. Yeah, it's on.
Hello. So I kind of wanted to, technology is a big issue for us, and I was just wondering if you could recommend any apps or software. We're using a couple of things that have helped us. One is it's a photo app. It's called Company Cam, and the guys have it all like logged onto their phones, so they take pictures and upload them so the whole company can see it, and it's just been fantastic. And we're also using Procore. It's been good because we do floors and walls and countertops and, you know, larger residential homes. So that's been good for drawing management, but we're still lacking workflow, like to keep track of things. And so that, if anybody knows a good software or recommends softwares, and what are some machines that everybody's like very happy with. We just put in a flow water jet, and it's been great for us. So just feedback on that kind of stuff.
Anybody out there have a software package that you're using that you're totally happy with, you want to recommend? That's fine. Right next to them.
We use we've had it for how long? 5 years. We're a little slow in getting started, but we've been using Action Flow, and the potential for it is tremendous, and that's what it does, is it tracks everything in there. It's just taken us a while to get it in there, but they're really good.
I had a boss some years ago in a different industry. When someone would say, "This drill stinks," to keep the language good, we're live, huh? Okay. And he would go, and he had the southern twang, and he'd say, "Tool's only as good as the man using it." And there are so many different products out there that you mentioned. You know, I'm kind of a throwback, and I just went from the whiteboard to, like, you know, the calendar on on the phone there, and that was because my 30-year-old son said, you know, I can't have everybody walking into the office to look at the schedule. So now they all have it on their phone. But I think with the variety that's out there, there's going to be something that's going to suit your needs that may not be suitable for a fabricator over here or over there. We're very subjective and we all do things differently, although our end result is the same. So there's a lot of different routes to get there. And there are many, many products, and some are on the show floor. You can go talk to them and find out if it's going to be better than what you're using. No.
That's a great question, though, too. I mean, I would definitely talk to every company that you can to get, because every company is different, and every company runs things differently, has a different flow. And you were talking about equipment, and my answer to the equipment is the very same thing. You know, what are your customers? Do you do a lot of production work? Do you do a lot of high-end work? I didn't buy my first CNC until I was in business. I think it was 11 years before I bought my first CNC, because all of my work was production. We were putting things on an inline polisher and getting them out the door. I mean, it was cookie cutter, straight stuff, a lot of commercial, a lot of big box, a lot of just everything was straight. Then you start to get more into your custom and things where you have, you know, large radiuses or things that need that type of machinery would be more efficient for that type of work. So I don't think there's a right or wrong or a best or better. I think that you're the one, as the shop owners are going to be, or the, you know, shop managers or the people that make the decision in the company, together as a group, the management team needs to get together and say, okay, let's look at our workload. Let's look at what we're doing and how our efficiency can be better and where are our bottlenecks. And, you know, just the entire whole process, as everybody knows, it's like a domino effect, right? I mean, if the template's bad, the whole job's bad, right? So you got to be having that management team to make that communication together, to make those decisions, and then just get as much information from as many people, and you'll see there's going to be something that will fit your business the best.
Ask other fabricators what's worked for them, and more importantly, what hasn't worked.
Yeah,
Support.
it's going to
Support's a big
depend.
thing.
It's going to depend on your company size, the type of work you're doing, the type of information. It's all about communicating information, whether that's internally with you and your employees, communicating stuff on the shop floor with your install trucks. It's all about information. What do you need to best handle your clients? Are you serving a big box store or a contractor that wants an instant update on where you are in process with your job? I don't know how advanced you are. Why may be perfectly applicable if you're a small enough shop and just doing, you know, one job a day type of thing, and you can be profitable doing that. So it's all going to depend on your budget. I know there's a number of options, like Buddy said, down on the show floor today. There's some new software that I hadn't seen for employee management and tracking, things like that. So just keep your eyes open, like he said. Try and find fabricators similar size, similar type of work or clients that you serve, and ask them what's working, what's not working.
Yeah, so with the last 8 years or so, we've been using MoreAware, and most people are aware of that. And it's like a one-size-fits-all. You know, I'm not a techie guy either, and but some employees are, and some people like that. Some people don't like the paperwork and the question asking and getting in my space to ask questions all the time. You can't get, you know, your work done. So it's evolved for us, and you know, for me, I'm still a walk around, you know, post to post and talk to people, and but for the most part, it works out for everyone that's, you know, trying to get jobs produced, and it's obviously it's, you sign up all the user company, you know, the guys on the field, the people are working even in admin and billing are involved, and so you feel like everyone's involved, and it's been around for a while, and you know, we dabbled into maybe switching to like Stone Profits, and you know, we passed it around, and everyone passed on it because it was a little bit more complicated, and you know, you have to take the aptitude test of your company and yourself, and whether or not you want to spend time, you know, spreading that and sort of delivering the message that it's better and investing the time in that. So, you know, time is important, you know, and you want that technology, but you don't want to have everybody in over their heads trying to be frustrated, you know, with it and not doing their job really. So it's worked for us.
Thanks. And anybody else have any software you're happy with, you want to share, had a great experience with? Let's change topics a little bit. We just went through a major pandemic. Hopefully we're clear out of that. I hear there's some other variants or something. Everybody please stay safe. Continue to do all the good things we've learned over the last year and a half. But what changed for the better? What changed in your shop and your processes dealing with clients? I've heard a number of ideas. How about you two? Start it off. What has changed for the better?
My workload? It's a luxury problem, but sometimes it's quite stressful, you know, trying to meet those expectations I had met earlier. I've had, you know, the up and down. There was that first couple of weeks where we closed because everybody closed, and it was mostly due to the, you know, the families. My employees' families wanted them home. I spent 2 or 3 weeks just going into the shop and just sitting at my desk reading a book and, you know, just talking with some of our colleagues and stuff. But then one builder would say, hey, can you get this out for me? And I'd call up 1 or 2 guys, and they'd say, sure. I'd come in for, you know, a couple of hours here and there. And, you know, and then all that distancing became everybody was back at work. Now, we had this little roller coaster in my region where, you know, it was, COVID was very strong, and then it wasn't. And then come around Thanksgiving, one of my employees had it running through his house. And as I had asked everybody to stagger their lunch breaks and, you know, do those distancing things we're supposed to, they just really weren't thinking about it. And when Carlos got sick and his whole family got sick, then I found everybody eating their lunch on buckets in different corners of the shop. We all got vaccines and went through all of that. We're going in and out of people's homes. I told them that if you get your vaccine, you don't have to wear your masks anymore in the shop, and, you know, so that kind of encouraged them to do it. But for the better, that workload, trying to fill in those gaps and trying to, you know, get it back to what I was used to with the 10 to 14 days turnaround on a normal job, that's still a challenge. Just recently, we got rid of the plastic at the desks and stuff like that, but it's you know, kind of take a look at, you know, more of what's important. I gave people time to take care of folks who were sick, but you know, again, for the better, the workload. I really don't know anything. You know, there's the shipping and there's, you know, some tooling that we don't really get on the negative side, but you know, some delays there. But you know, that's all manageable. So.
What about those of you with showrooms? I heard one of the big changes that's positive is appointments. Customers are more apt and more respectful of making appointments and showing up, which can level out the workflow of your sales staff. You got a question back there?
No, I was actually going to comment on that. That's one of the positives we found is when we switched to by appointment, we weren't getting shopped out by the people that are coming from the big box stores, using us for free design services, using us for free samples, and to see large slabs. So our sales remained constant, but now our salespeople were not overwhelmed by all these looky-loos that were coming in and taking time. Because as soon as we started saying you have to make an appointment and give your phone number and your email address and do a health check in the store, they said, oh, no, thank you. We're not coming. So since we've opened back up, we still are doing Saturdays by appointment because we have a large remnant area. And that's been tremendous help to not spend hours outside with people that are just wasting our time.
So that's kind of changed your customers' expectations as well. Agree? Anybody else have those positive experiences you've carried out of COVID? Is that continuing? I don't know. I want to hear. Is that process or appointments still a thing people adhere to? I'm seeing a lot of nods yes, so I think that's a good thing. Karen? What else?
I'll just add that I think that it was a positive thing to it is that how many of you learned how to use Zoom or GoToMeeting or technology that we didn't ever use before Consulting through that way, I found that some of my clients even wanted to do that, consulting through a Zoom meeting or, the appointments in the home. There is also that added expense. I mean, how much did it cost you to mask your people up, to put the hand sanitizer out, to prepare your installers to make sure that they had what they needed to be safe when they went into the home? The rescheduling of customers when they didn't want you in the home. I had a couple that jobs got put off that, came down with COVID. So job site got shut down. Homeowner's husband got COVID, so now we're 2 weeks out. So job loads, yes, big thing. We had some major problems at my company with as far as jobs coming in and it really hitting us in the pocket. Not enough time to react for PPP loans. And how many in here were successful with their PPP loans? I'm interested to see that. That's good. That's good. And you don't have to say this might be too personal, but did most of them get forgiven? Okay. So,
Right.
yeah, there's a lot of different aspects of the COVID-19, and I think if we always continue to look at the positive, then we move forward.
Any changes inside your company, remote staff that's still continuing? You found that was successful for your employees, maybe made them more or less motivated? Are you changing back, bringing people back into the shop? I want to know.
I tried sending slabs to my guys' houses. It didn't work.
It did. Yeah.
I look at fabricators as, there are different sort of groups of fabricators. You've got fabricators that work on contracts and don't interact as much with end users and walk-ins. And I'd like to know, how has COVID make you adapt to that? And did you go out and change your game a little bit and try to adapt and draw in, walk-in clients or go out and make cold calling meetings? What did you do to adapt? Because I remember when in 08, 09, in that one period, we were relying on builders. And when that dried up, it changed us entirely, and we sort of directed all of our attention and efforts into working with walk-in clients and retail. And we haven't changed since. So we've got everything sort of in multiple baskets, so to speak. But this is a different thing that hit us. And I was just wondering, the guys that, rely strictly on email orders and contract orders, did you change?
Yeah, what about the installers? Is their life easier, better, different, worse now when they go out to the job sites because of COVID protocols that you guys have put in place?
Our first instinct was, let's not go to owner-occupied houses. After about a week or two, or a month or so, we found that the homeowners were the ones more accommodating to let you into the house, ask the questions, get out of the way, and then come back at the end of the install. Where the builders, in the beginning of this whole thing, I'd say, hey, can we have the kitchen for the morning? And they'd say, sure, no problem. And we get to the job site, and there's 20, 30 all trades all over the place, moving other people's tools around. Remember, that was when we were afraid to touch anything back then, okay? So, but there were other tools, the bucket was in the way, and the electrician would grab your bucket and move it over here because they needed to get there. But, the builders were more concerned with, let's get the job done, let's get paid. Homeowners were a little bit more, accommodating as far as the protocols that were in place then.
Is that continuing now to some
I
degree?
think if you were to ask me, it would be status quo as it was 2 years ago. Some people would say, we've all been vaccinated, you don't have to wear your mask. I instruct my guys, wear the mask when you walk to the door, let the homeowner tell you not to take it off or not wear it, or, whether it's okay. On the construction sites, it's a little bit different. It's basically a free-for-all.
I really think, too, it depends on where you live.
Mm-hmm.
It depends on the state laws. It depends on what the mask mandates are. I mean, that's all changing now. A lot of it's changing, but now the new variants coming out. I mean, I personally am very cautious when I go into a customer's home. I wear my mask. I wear my mask in the show. You don't know. You just don't know. It's too new of a problem. But it can't be something that is, I feel it can't be something that is general. I think it's a personal thing, and you got to follow the laws, but at the same time respect people's wishes when they're in their home. So I would tell the installers, if they want you to wear a mask, you need to wear a mask. If they're feeling uncomfortable, then they wear a mask. The idea is the customer service and making sure that they have the best experience in your customer service. And part of that is following some of those guidelines for safety.
I mean, it's noticeable here, even at coverings. We have a large number of our international friends that don't have some of the advantages we have here in North America with the availability of vaccines and things like that. And a large number of our international friends aren't even here at this show. It is considerably smaller. And I am very thankful for those of you who did take the time to travel, come out. I love seeing your faces again without a mask covering many of them. But it's great to be in person again, really. I think we've all grown to appreciate that a little more, I hope. I know I do.
Some say I look better with the mask on.
No comment.
Okay, for me, my name is Maria Vasquez from Pembroke, Massachusetts. And no problem with all the routine of the duties or how to accommodate when we are doing. My problem is workforce. No people coming, no people showing up, and the load of work coming a lot. My builders and designers keep us busy all the time. It's a double maybe for the year before. And I'm totally booked. People call me and I say, well, until November, I have no spot for a new kitchen or any project. But my problem is finding the labor or skilled people around. It has been a nightmare for me, coming for installation and at 7:30 in the morning, and I have just to look around who can help me to go for those installations just to help my husband, because sometimes 3 are out and some of them they even never come back. And the ones that are coming in, they are, we have to train them, and they come for 1-2 days. One even came for a week and never show up for the check. So that's my first problem, and my concern that has been now almost a year. Everything started in July, and now it's a year that I can't find somebody who really, like a reliable workers. That's for me my first problem.
Anybody else in here problem with the workforce? I think everybody would probably at some point raise their hand. Yeah, it kind of reminds me of 2008 when things kind of, dropped out and everybody went and worked another trade, right? So now the economy comes back and that wonderful installer or fabricator is now doing IT work, and they don't want to go back into the stone business. Why would they if they have making the same or more money and they don't have to kill their back or lifting stone? So I kind of relate it to that a little bit in a way too, but the reliability of having good people is a constant thing. I think it's been a constant thing for our industry for years. I think you agree.
Anybody go to a restaurant this week? Anybody notice that it might have taken longer? Anybody notice that they say, sorry, we don't have room for 2 for an hour and a half, and you look and all the tables are empty?
It's everywhere.
There's, people have found other trades. Now, I haven't lost anybody, but I've had to give them raises, and that gets incorporated in that price increase that we talked about with the shipping costs and things like that. So I've bumped everybody up without telling them. I just did it. 3 noticed, 4 didn't. My wife and son didn't notice, but but that's one way to retain it. Before the COVID thing, I had a skilled shop floor guy get picked off for close to $10 an hour. And I can't just walk up and say, well, it could be 3 or 4 more. That's still not enough. Why couldn't I do that before? See, there's that mentality. And, it got me to think a little bit about it. But at the same time, I have to have a peanut butter sandwich at the end of the week, so I need to, be able to keep my lights on. So there is a balance. But with, I could use cost of materials and, whatever it might be. We've, I had mentioned my model being what I take out of pocket for material, put my labor on. My markup has gone from, it's gone up 20% on the material. Just the handling and whatnot has gone up from, I was like maybe putting a third on top of it. Now I'm putting 50%, period, on top of the slabs. No, this one gets a break or anything like that. And, my labor costs have bumped it up too. That gets absorbed by, giving the guys the odd raise here and there. And one thing to keep them reliable and showing up, it's the random $100 bill. Just give out a $100 bill here and there, and say, hey, great work this week, whatever. But you do it randomly. Don't give everybody $100 at once, because I don't have that. But you give it to them random. They don't know when it's coming. Maybe sometimes if somebody made a mistake and they feel bad, that's when I'll strategically try to do it to kind of increase their psyche and say, hey, you know what? It's all right. Mistakes happen. Here you go. Take your wife out for dinner or something like that, And that, puts a smile on their face. They go happy. They tell their family, hey, look, I got a little bonus today. And it's just a little, psycho thing. Psychological, not psycho.
And you with your 5-month lead time, is that completely internally, or are there projects you're waiting on you can't access yet?
No, we are accessing since we were waiting for March to mid-May to start to go into the houses to do templating and installations. But after mid-May, has been all builders in my area, and all remodels and everything has been crazy, as I have no time. Every day they are the builders are coming. I have to more. And
I asked that question because I think some that I've talked to around the industry might argue or suggest that you have an opportunity to perhaps ask for more money if you have that.
I was just going to say that.
Yep.
I was just going to
Yep.
say that. If you got a 5-month lead time, now's your time to raise your price. Yeah. That
Seriously.
demand is there.
When you have the same
Prices are
challenges.
too low.
Yeah. She has the same challenges with staffing as everybody else here in the room. Just a small change in price. We've had sessions like this at Coverings and other shows over the years where a small price increase can really affect your bottom line and your income. And you may be able to translate that into offering incentives to keep or maintain or hire more employees and even do more work.
Remember that the stone industry isn't the only industry that's affected by all these raises, these rise in building materials. It's everywhere. Anybody in here sell cabinets? One person?
A couple of you.
Just curious, what's your wait time for cabinets to come in? A month?
2 months.
2 months, okay. 2 months. Used to be less, though, right?
used to be 2 weeks.
Used to be 2 weeks, okay? Ask your builders you're working with how long it's taking to get their building materials. I have a friend who has an appliance showroom, huge appliance showroom. His stuff, backlogged. It's everywhere. People are expecting it. They know it's going on. So set the expectation. In your case, I would be raising my price. You have to compensate for this time and for these costs that are going on. It's just my advice, but I mean, if I had that much of a backload, I'd say you're probably nailing every job that comes in the door. And if you were to look around at your competitors, you're probably one of the lowest price in the area. And I don't want to be the lowest price. I don't know about anybody else here. Anybody else here want to be the lowest price? We don't want to be the highest price maybe, but we don't want to be the lowest price either.
And I've heard your argument, like, I'm going to guess you'd say, well, we might lose a client or two. And that's a concern, but it's
okay.
It's
So-
okay.
Sometimes the best job is the one we don't get.
Right. Yep. It's okay. You don't want every job, honestly, believe me.
Before COVID, I reached out to the local high school, the local tech high school, and they offer masonry, they offer carpentry, they offer CNC, and we fall somewhere in between all of that. I was going to start, they were going to start bringing one class per semester from each of those to visit my shop for 2 or 3 hours, and then COVID came and students aren't even allowed to go on the bus anymore. But I was just starting to get something to maybe drum up some interest with some young folks. I know here at the Institute we've been working on some things that are kind of in its infant stages right now. More will be revealed on that. Mark may know a little bit more of the details, but like as far as apprenticeships and internships and stuff like that. But keep your eyes peeled. Hopefully we'll have some good stuff for everybody in the future.
I was going to just add to that, check with your vocational schools. Like we have a manufacturing vocational school here in the area, and I met with them. They have a CNC training program. They have other training programs. We actually talked about starting some kind of a installation or fabrication program within the vocational school or college, and we started writing curriculum. I had talked a little bit with Natural Stone Institute as well. Their programs are great with training. Is anybody using the training for Natural Stone Institute? Good. Everybody should be on that education website and start using their training. And that's going to make your employees a lot more valuable. So I use that all the time. When I first onboard an employee, one of the things that I would do was send them to that website, and Aaron will set you guys up with a login, and they track every course that your employees do. And it's a lot about safety, but they're expanding on their education all the time. That's why we're members, because that's what we get the value out of all of that. But look at the area around for employees, and then we were going to do an internal training program as well, and it just never came to fruition.
Yeah, I mentioned I reached out to the Votech school, and we were going to try to get this thing off the ground. That didn't get off the ground. However, they have me looped in on their emails for their events now. I don't see any of the fabricators on that. So if you get the opportunity, reach out, and that way you've got your name there. So when the time does come and they're able to send students out or whatever it might be, you could be at the top of the list. I'm at the top of the list. There's probably 8 or 10 fabricators within 2 miles of me, but I'm the one on the email chain from the school when they have their little dinners and stuff, and that sort of thing. So
When graduation comes, all those people are looking for jobs, so they're gonna give you those leads to those people for interviews. Great way to find employees.
Yeah, you had a question out there? Oh, right here.
I have the
Yeah,
mic.
Marco.
I thought you didn't want to be picked on.
I know we
I
were
don't
gonna
get
we
picked
were
on.
gonna keep
I
cutting
can
you off.
participate. I don't like getting picked on. We treat now searching for employees as almost as important as looking for clients. So we dedicated, a slot and a time and assigned it to HR now that we just look for creative ways to start, through social media, through the interactions with the own employees, to extend it, even family members. A lot of people don't like to hire, people that bring in family members or spouses or, but you have to sort of keep spreading that like you do virally when you're trying to get clients. You use social media, you want recommendations, you want references. And, we try that avenue, and then it's also pay. You pay for advertising, right? We pay for Indeed. We pay for local, platforms like Craigslist. And, to me, it's about drawing as many people as you can and then filtering. And then, for me, my thing is about finding a good employee first. So I set my criteria as all right, I think I like this person to be an Atlas employee first. Bring them in, look at what they like to do or what they've done before, find a place for that. Chances are they might migrate to a position that you actually need, and they're more enthusiastic about learning it, and the curve and that training goes through a little quicker. I've had 3 employees that came in almost on the admin level, and 2 of them went to the tech department. One's a digital templater, okay, and another one is learning programming. So sometimes you try to get people in, and then if they're a good piece to the puzzle for the culture of your company, maybe you could figure out a way to fill in that void as well. So it worked for me.
I'll mention one more thing, if I can. A couple of my colleagues have done something too, where they have an employee gets referred. Let's say I know Susan, and we know that there's an admin position open, so we tell Susan about it. Susan comes in and says, well, Karen referred me, and now we hire them. We end up hiring them at some point. They go through all the stages, they get hired, they're there for 6 months. That person who refers them gets a bonus for referring a good employee to the company. That's also another way of incentivizing your employees to say, hey, you want to come work for this company that I work for. And it seemed to work very well for them.
We've been successful. We rented like a little 1,000-square-foot warehouse on the next street over and put a training facility in about 6 months ago. And it was amazing to me that guys have been working for us for 5 years, not knowing how to, because it was a lot of on-site equipment, use that equipment. And then after a week of them training, for the last 2 months, they've been like raised from helpers to mechanics doing things, and it's been extremely effective for us. So.
Yeah, I was going to recommend that. Kind of what Karen brought up is incentivizing employees among themselves. People want to be around other people they enjoy being around, whether it's at work or socially, inside, outside the office. So if you can find a way, friends, cousins, whatever, relatives, to set up an incentive program for your current employees, it also creates a stronger work environment between the team. Isn't that true?
It is. It is true. It can also bite you too if it gets to be too crazy, but yes.
Yeah.
So my questions is it's a little bit of it's to that recruitment point, but it's a little bit of a disappointment, and it's part of social media. And that is that what I've seen is there are so many entertaining things on social media. I know how to take a tree that fell, cut it in half, pour acrylic in it, sand it down, and make the kitchen table. I know how to grind a piece of steel into a new knife and things like that. I can carve a tomato into a flower, but I haven't seen any romancing of the stone. I haven't seen any process that makes, people walk into homes and they see all the stonework, but they don't know how much beauty gets put into it, and that's a prime opportunity to be done. And by default, it would help educate some of those younger people because they're on media looking at it all the time, and maybe spark the interest that, hey, maybe working with stone is worthwhile. I can do something with it. Just a thought, that's all.
That is something we've discussed, showing that end product, and do you want to be a part of it? And just so you know, that's my brother, and he's been wanting me to do that for years, and it's hard for me to go to a job site and think about pulling my phone out and start taking the pictures and everything and keeping track of that particular job. And now he's put me on the spot. I'm going to have to be the first to do it out of everybody in the room here, But, one of the things we have discussed within the Institute is, how do we attract people? And, one of we thought about attraction, and one way to do that is maybe show off that church that won the Grand Pinnacle. Show off that fancy waterfall with the book match Calcutta kitchen, and say, do you want to be a part of this? Not just, do you want to make $20 an hour? Where you can make 30 in a year or two if you're really good. You don't want to. That really doesn't. It doesn't translate to, like, you walk in, and if, one of us can do a mosaic like this carpet here, you show that to some young person, they'll be like, wow, I could do that.
Don't forget, Michelangelo dealt with stone.
Absolutely. And that's one of the things. Thank you for those of you who are already Natural Stone Institute members and supporting the programs that we're trying to build. Buddy's mentioned a couple of them. One would be that apprenticeship program. We are in some early stage development of that, but we're putting together apprenticeship programs for all the different market segments we serve, from the quarriers to the countertop fabricator installers and restoration and maintenance folks as well, and even distribution, the slab distributors. We want to make our industry more attractive, and there's other programs already in place. Buddy mentioned the Pinnacle, which is part of our awards program. You guys aren't just doing Ubatuba all day anymore. I know that. You're doing some beautiful work out there, and one of the ways to glamorize that is to submit your better projects for awards consideration. The winners of those awards are celebrated here at Coverings. They're celebrated in Stone World Magazine. They're celebrated at our awards ceremonies.
We're quick to put those jobs up on Facebook, right?
I do see a bunch of them on Facebook.
I know.
And they're beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But what if there is a world outside Facebook,
Yeah, I know.
And Instagram. Now it's TikTok.
I threw another slide up here. Anybody having challenges? We want to move on to things like materials or shop issues, equipment. Everything's running like a clock. No issues. Got an arm up in the back. Let's hear from you.
One over here.
The distribution side, and we have new products in the porcelain arena, large slabs, and I'm curious to see if you guys are embracing those and how easy or hard they are to work with.
Yes and no. Yes, we are. A couple years ago, I might do 1 or 2 porcelain jobs a year, and it was mostly just a vertical thing, a backsplash or something like that. Recently, it's been about 1, maybe 2 a month, ranging from the walls, the thin setting to the walls, to doing the miter counters and stuff. And we've got the trials and tribulations, and we've done enough of them where we've been able to work it out. My guys know the difference between sintered and porcelain, and how to what tooling to use and how to go about it and do it properly. Some of this stuff explodes, but if you break a few of them, then you know how to do it. As I mentioned before, not always what works, but sometimes what's more important is what didn't work.
And I'll agree with Buddy. I mean, if you looked at porcelain last year, we'd get 1 or 2. Now we get a lot of questions about it. A lot of designers are liking it. It is a product that I would say that if you're going to do it, make sure you get with that distributor and get trained on it, because every product's a little bit different. And we have our favorites, but honestly, there's nothing like natural stone. I personally am a natural stone girl. I just love the natural characteristics of it. But let's face it, porcelain is coming into the industry. It kind of reminds me of when quartz came into the industry and everybody was like, oh, we don't want to touch quartz. And now look at it. Maybe 5 years from now, it may be just like that, maybe sooner. There's a lot of different techniques that have to be used when you're handling and when you're fabricating and installing it. So if you get your guys used to it then and set a process, what we did was we kind of made one day that we process porcelain. Okay, this is the day that we're going to do whatever product it was, because there's a lot of tool changing. There's a lot of different things that happen. So that, organize it and make it something that your guys would enjoy doing and educate them to not be afraid of it.
When one of my distributors contacts me and says, we are now carrying XYZ porcelain or whatever sintered product, the first one, I always ask them, you got something that, you got a slab that fell over, something I can have and I can play around with it on a Saturday? Just so I can, see if XYZ porcelain works the same as PDQ porcelain or ABC porcelain, because they're all made slightly differently, and you're going to find little quirks here and there.
Yeah, I think we're running up against our time limit for the day, but we got time for one more question. And thanks you guys for coming up today, and thanks for warming up and finally sharing. What question we got?
Yes, we work with a lot of engineered stone, and a lot of the challenges we're coming across is like damages to the face, you know, and having to do repairs on that. Have you come across anything that's a better product or a process of fixing that, like even on-site jobs?
There's some products. The usual suspects, the consumable companies, Grand Quartz and BBI and stuff, have products for, you know, patching and repairing the quartz products.
Just like the damage of the shine, the finish, you know, like the etching and stuff like that. Could we use some products?
This is on quartz?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And
They have some products out there. One I believe is called Quartz Renew. We've just done trial and error until we got it right. You know, so there's like some tricks that you can get off of the supermarket shelf, some products and stuff, Soft Scrub and Barkeeper's Friend, that help you blend things in, but a lot of it is just getting the right texture on your epoxies. If you're filling a hole, some epoxies might not show as well as others, or show better than others, or blend better is probably a better term. But, you know, it's a lot of trial and error. The fellow mentioned porcelain a few minutes ago. I got some patchwork I got to do on a job to get paid. I've got my guys in your spare time, you know, mess around with this. Try this product, try that one. Get some glass repair stuff, you know. Just try all of this, see what's going to work. So when we get to that house, we're not spending 3 days trying to figure it out. We already have it figured out, and we can spend 3 hours.
I'd also weigh the cost, the difference of replacement over the time of your installer and the qualification of your installer or the person that's repairing. You know, you got to weigh that. And how bad is that? How bad is the scratch, the chip, whatever it is? There's a lot of different aspects to it, so there's not a right or wrong answer. There's not a miracle product, unfortunately. So.
Yeah, because I know that's like the big challenge is like matching that shine.
Exactly.
Not your over
And
polishing
now
it,
this-
the smooth section
exactly.
now, and it's like, yeah.
Now this little spot has become this big spot, or you have this divot, and yeah.
Right.
So that,
Yeah.
like I said, you got to weigh all those options.
And
How big?
My old boss gave them cookie jars to hide it.
I mean, Buddy mentioned glass, so even the newer products, the porcelain and the sintered, there are products from other industries like the glass industry that I am now seeing out there available that can help with some scratch removal or repair on some of these non-stone products that before these products were available to us, we didn't even know it was available. But they're out there. You just have to do a little digging. Ask again your friends, your suppliers. One more question. Anybody else? What did we not get to?
I just had one from the platform, and you may have already touched on this, but I wanted to make sure Whitney knew we were listening.
Sure.
She just asked, what raw materials do you see trending in new applications?
I see natural stone all the time coming back stronger because of the issues that we've had with quartz in our area. Engineered stone, though, is hot. I mean, it is hot. It's not going anywhere. But I will tell you, I've heard, you know, through a lot of our distributors that the white quartzes are going to be having some issues here if they aren't already coming in. So snatch them while you can and keep them in stock, because apparently there's going to be a shortage of white quartzes coming up.
Supply issues.
Supply issues
Okay.
again.
When you say raw materials, engineered products, sintered products, glass products are cooked. They're not raw. So when you say raw, I go right to the natural stone. But as far as products that we're using and what's trending, a lot of the stuff isn't going away. I've noticed that a lot of the man-made products have their flaws, even though they're marketed that they don't. Natural stone has its flaws, but that's part of the natural beauty of it. As far as, you know, more and more people are using quartzites because of the durability. However, there may be some things we need to educate our end user on. Some quartzites have been more absorbent than others recently. We've seen framing where the moisture doesn't go away, and, you know, trial and error. I've figured out a way to kind of alleviate that before it gets to the job site and we have issues then. But just here, I've heard several questions about that. And not only here, but at some of the local fabricators and distributors have asked about that. So it's happening all over the place. And I first experienced it a while ago. But, back to the question on the trends, quartzites as far as natural stone really have been going. And I see some going back to the Italian calcitic marbles.
We do lots of quartzites, I will add to that, and it's not a favorite of some of my guys, but because of those reasons that you mentioned, but as long as you know how to treat it. So when I say natural stone, I don't mean just granite, I mean like the quartzites and even marble. Marble's become a popular one too.
Let it dry naturally. Set the expectation it's going to be several more days than it normally would be. Put it outside if you can. I don't know about humid atmospheres like this. I'm in Connecticut, but just regular sunlight and air from outside. You can put I've put fans on it and torches, and it seems to come back. But if it's just drying naturally, and then we seal it, I haven't had the callbacks.
Tape up your seams for bleeding.
Before we close out, just to address that, I will say we hosted, over the last year, we've hosted a number of webinars that are available in the Natural Stone Institute's Natural Stone University. We did one specifically with quartzites. I talked to some of the industry professionals, both from restoration point of view and from chemicals and adhesives, to get a better understanding of what's going on with those staining issues and give you all some more ammunition on how to deal with that. But the thing I do appreciate everybody coming out today. We're stronger together than we are in our own little boxes, and I'm glad we get opportunities like this at Coverings to come out and see each other. Take advantage of that while you're here. Talk to each other. Talk to Karen. Talk to Buddy. Talk to me while I'm here for a few more minutes before I catch my flight home. Thanks to my good friends Buddy and Karen for coming up here and helping lead this discussion. I hope you guys have a great show. Visit the show floor. See some of those products that we touched on today, some of the machinery, some of the new technologies that are out there, and have a great day.